The research vessel Boundless Inquiry drifted silently through the uncharted reaches of Sector 87, its sleek hull gleaming under the light of an unfamiliar star. On the observation deck, Chief Xenobiologist Dr. Vexlar's 6 appendages worked in perfect coordination, adjusting the sensor array with the precision that had made him legendary among the Galactic Concord. Another anomalous reading. He chittered, his exoskeleton clicking softly as he leaned closer to the holographic display. The 4th in 2 cycles. Science Officer Trill, a willowy Medusan with translucent skin revealing pulsing neural pathways, glided to his side. The ship's computational matrix is detecting extreme radiation fluctuations. It's exceeding our instrument's calibration limits. The uncharted planet hanging in their view screen shouldn't have registered as anything special, one of thousands catalogued during the Concorde's great expansion. But as the Boundless Inquiry had approached, their sensors began malfunctioning in ways the crew had never seen. "Atmospheric composition analysis complete," announced the ship's AI, its voice melodious yet precise. "Results indicate presence of 16 known toxins at lethal concentrations. Atmospheric pressure 3.7 times standard Concorde habitability parameters, and radiation levels consistent with recent stellar collision events." Vexlar's primary heart quickened. "That can't be correct. Recalibrate and rescan." "Recalibration complete," the AI responded moments later. "Readings confirmed and updated. Surface temperatures range from -89 to +58 degrees on the standard scale, often within the same regional zones. Gravitational force is 1.4 times standard Concorde habitability parameters." The bridge fell silent. Captain Genla, a veteran explorer with ceremonial scars mapping her achievements across her Azure scales, finally broke the tension. "Preliminary classification." Vexlar's appendages trembled slightly. "Based on these readings, Class 14 Deathworld." Gasps rippled through the bridge crew. The classification system only went to 12. "Impossible," whispered Trill. "No system would evolve life under such conditions." "Deploy long-range probes," ordered Captain Zenla. "Standard planetary survey protocol." "No sentient species could possibly." "Captain," interrupted the navigation officer, "I'm detecting artificial satellites in orbit around the planet." The statement hit like a gravity hammer. Captain Genla's scales flashed warning colors as she turned to Vexlar. "Magnify," she commanded. The view screen zoomed in, revealing unmistakably constructed objects circling the planet. Primitive by Concorde standards, but definitely technology. "There's more," said the communications officer, her tentacles working frantically over her console. "We're detecting transmission signals originating from the surface. Thousands of them, following clear patterns consistent with information exchange." Vexlar's scientific mind raced. "This violates everything we understand about evolutionary biology. No species could evolve sentience in such hostile conditions. Unless," Trill suggested, her neural pathways pulsing rapidly with excitement, "they evolved because of those conditions." The implications silenced the bridge. The Concorde's foundational principles classified worlds precisely to determine which could support life. Class 14 meant certain death for any known species. Captain Genla's decision would change galactic history. Communications, prepare a Priority 1 transmission to Concorde High Command. Science team, assemble complete planetary reports. Navigation, maintain orbit at maximum safe distance. She turned to face her crew, scales now shimmering with the formal blue of a historic declaration. "We have discovered what appears to be a sentient civilization on a world that, by all our understanding, should be uninhabitable. This finding may require us to reconsider everything we know about life itself." Dr. Vexlar stared at the seemingly ordinary planet that defied all scientific understanding. What kind of beings could call such a hellscape home? And what would it mean for the galaxy when they made contact? Ambassador Kiraran adjusted her ceremonial sash one final time before stepping into the reinforced dropship. As the Concorde's most decorated first contact specialist, She had faced hostile environments across 17 star systems, but never a Class 14. Final equipment check, announced Commander Drell, the security chief. His crystalline exoskeleton had been specially reinforced for this mission, glinting ominously under the bay lights. Hazard suits at maximum protection. Backup systems triple verified. The elite team of 12, scientists, diplomats, and security specialists, had trained for 2 months for this unprecedented mission. Their experimental hazard suits represented the pinnacle of Concord protective technology, each costing more than a small starship. "Remember," Kieran addressed the team, her voice steady despite the fear evident in her pheromone signature, "our scans suggest these beings have never encountered extraplanetary life. First contact protocols apply, but be prepared for unconventional responses." The dropship detached from the orbital station with a soft shudder. As they descended toward the blue-green planet, warning systems immediately began howling. "Acid storm ahead," called the pilot, her 4 arms working frantically across the controls. "Corrosion on external sensors already at 15%. The ship bucked violently as they pushed through layers of atmosphere that would dissolve standard hull materials in seconds. 3 backup systems failed in rapid succession. "Impact in 20 seconds, the pilot announced. "Brace for." The landing was harder than anticipated, sending equipment cases tumbling across the cabin. Outside the reinforced viewports, they could see a strangely ordinary landscape, fields of green plants swaying in the wind under a blue sky. "Atmospheric readings confirm lethal levels of oxygen," reported Dr. Nexeri, the environmental specialist. "Radiation levels fluctuating between extreme and apocalyptic. Microbiological scan detects approximately 15,000 potentially lethal organisms per cubic centimeter of air." Commander Drell activated the external cameras as the team established their sealed base camp. Movement detected, 300 meters north. The screens displayed several bipedal figures approaching across an open field. They walked with relaxed gaits, wearing simple coverings that left much of their external membranes exposed directly to the deadly atmosphere. "Impossible," whispered Dr. Vexlar, who had insisted on joining the ground team. "They're breathing the air. Their skin is directly exposed to solar radiation that would cook us in minutes." More shocking still was the smaller figure running ahead of the group, clearly a juvenile, stopping occasionally to examine flowering plants, with bare manipulator appendages. "They're not wearing any protective gear," Kieran observed, unable to keep the disbelief from her voice. "How are they not dying?" The team watched, transfixed, as a local approached a containment fence the robots had erected. The being, clearly male by its morphology, reached down and picked up soil, letting it run through exposed digits with no protection whatsoever. "These readings can't be right," Dr. Nexeri insisted, recalibrating her instruments. "That soil sample he just touched contains metals that would cause immediate neural degradation in any Concord species." The communication system suddenly chimed, indicating it had processed enough local transmissions to attempt translation. "Are you going to come out and say hello?" The words appeared on their screens, transmitted from a primitive communication device one of the locals held. "Or are you planning to hide in your fancy ship all day?" Kieran looked at her team, seeing her own shock reflected in their expressions. "Prepare for direct contact," she ordered, her training taking over despite her disbelief. "Full quarantine protocols." As the airlock cycled, and the team stepped onto the surface in their bulky protective suits, they were met by 5 humans standing casually in the deadly environment. One stepped forward with an expression the xenopsychologist would later identify as a smile. "Welcome to Earth," said the human. "You guys must be really hot in those spacesuits. Can we offer you something to drink?" Dr. Nexeri had never expected to make friends with a Deathworlder. Yet here she was, 3 weeks into the mission, sharing what the humans called coffee with Maria Chen, a biologist from their Beijing Research Institute. Of course, Nexeri wasn't actually drinking the beverage. It would dissolve her digestive tract. But her sampling probe analyzed the liquid while they talked inside the reinforced contact dome. "So your species has no natural predators?" Maria asked, fascination evident in her expressive eyes. The human's features were still alien to Nexeri, but she'd learned to recognize certain emotional cues. "Not for 12,000 cycles," Nexeri replied. "The Medusan homeworld is entirely cultivated. Dangerous organisms were eliminated during our early technological phase." Maria's expression shifted to what Nexeri had learned was wistfulness. "That sounds peaceful," Maria said. "Last month, I lost 2 graduate students to a tiger attack during field research, and that was in a protected reserve." Nexeri's translucent skin pulsed with shock, a reaction she couldn't hide. "Yet you continue to preserve these predators." "Of course," Maria replied, as if the answer were obvious. "They're magnificent creatures. Beautiful. Part of what makes Earth, Earth." Outside the dome, a crowd had gathered. Again. Despite the Concorde team's requests for discretion, their landing site had become a tourist attraction. Humans traveled thousands of kilometers just to glimpse the visitors, bringing offerings of local foods and crafts that, while well-intentioned, had caused 3 diplomatic staff to be rushed back to orbit for emergency toxin removal. "Your people seem unafraid of us," Nexeri observed. "Is that not unusual for a species encountering extraterrestrials for the first time?" Maria laughed. "Are you kidding? We've been imagining meeting aliens for centuries. Half our entertainment is about first contact. Though I admit, most humans expected you'd look more like us." Before Nexeri could respond, alarm systems blared throughout the compound. The ground beneath them trembled violently. "Seismic event in progress." Commander Drell's voice echoed through communication channels. "All personnel to emergency stations." Maria's eyes widened, but not with the terror Nexeri expected. Instead, she saw recognition and determination. "Magnitude 8.7 earthquake," Maria stated calmly, checking her primitive wrist device. "We need to evacuate. Your dome isn't designed for this." The next moments passed in chaos. Nexeri watched in horror as fissures opened in the earth around their compound. The reinforced habitation modules, designed to withstand the vacuum of space, cracked like eggshells under the planet's violent convulsions. Then came the most astonishing sight of all: humans rushing toward the disaster rather than away from it. They moved with practiced efficiency, extracting injured Concorde personnel from damaged structures, setting up emergency triage stations, and stabilizing critical systems. Dr. Vexlar's voice crackled over the emergency channel. "My laboratory module has collapsed. I cannot reach the exit. Atmosphere breach imminent." Nexeri froze in terror. Vexlar was trapped in a section where the radiation levels were rising to levels lethal even by human standards. No rescue team could reach him in time. Yet Maria, who had been monitoring their communications, immediately ran toward the collapsed laboratory. "Maria, stop," Nexeri called after her. "The radiation will kill you." The human paused only long enough to shout back, "It'll take hours for radiation poisoning to become critical. He'll suffocate in minutes if we don't get him out." Nexeri watched, recording everything with her neural implants for a report no one at Concorde headquarters would believe. A human deliberately exposing herself to lethal radiation, tearing through twisted metal with bleeding hands, and emerging 15 minutes later carrying the 6-limbed xenobiologist to safety. Hours later, while the human medical teams treated their own injuries alongside the Concorde wounded, Ambassador Kiraran approached Nexeri. "The preliminary analysis of human biological samples is complete," she said quietly. "You won't believe what we found." Nexeri, still watching Maria coordinate rescue efforts despite her radiation burns, replied, "After today, Ambassador, I think I would believe anything about these impossible creatures." Dr. Vexlar's laboratory aboard the orbital station had become a chaotic nest of equipment. Recovery from his injuries was slow, but his mind refused rest. The soil samples Maria had helped him retrieve before the earthquake had revealed something impossible, something that changed everything. "Magnify Section 12B," he instructed the laboratory AI. The holographic display zoomed in on what appeared to be ordinary soil microbes, except they weren't microbes at all. "Artificial structures confirmed at nanoscale," the AI reported. "Material composition indicates technological origin. Estimated age between 2.3 and 3.1 million years." Vexlar's appendages trembled with excitement. The nanites were terraforming machines, still functioning after millions of years, subtly manipulating Earth's environment at a molecular level. Ambassador Kiraran entered the laboratory, her usual diplomatic composure strained. "Tell me you found something to explain these humans. The Concord High Council is demanding answers." "Look," Vexlar gestured to the display. "These nanomachines are in every soil sample, every water source, even the atmospheric condensation. They're not natural." Meaning, Earth wasn't always a Class 14 Deathworld. It was engineered to become one, progressively, over millions of years. The implications silenced them both. Finally, Kiraran spoke. "Someone created this planet as a..." "What?" "A weapon forge." "A crucible," Vexlar corrected. "To deliberately evolve a species that could withstand conditions no other sentient life could survive." The door slid open as Maria Chen arrived for their scheduled research session. The radiation burns on her exposed skin were healing with remarkable speed, another biological miracle that the Concord scientists couldn't explain. "Why are you both looking at me like I've grown a second head?" Maria asked. 3 hours later, in a secure conference room, select human officials sat in stunned silence as Vexlar concluded his presentation. "The evidence is irrefutable," he said. "The nanites have been gradually increasing planetary radiation, introducing environmental toxins, and engineering more aggressive predator species for millions of years. With each generation, humans were forced to adapt or perish." UN Secretary General Okafor pinched the bridge of his nose. "You're telling us Earth was designed? That we're some kind of experiment?" "Not an experiment," Ambassador Kiraran corrected. "A deliberate creation. The question is, created by whom, and for what purpose?" Maria, who had been silent throughout the presentation, finally spoke. "The ancient bunkers. They might have answers." All eyes turned to her. "What ancient bunkers?" asked Dr. Nexari. "There are underground structures in various locations, the Gobi, Sahara, Antarctic bedrock, that have defied archaeological dating. Some contain star maps and schematics unlike anything in our technological development path. We've never been able to interpret them." Within days, a joint human Concord research team descended into the deepest bunker beneath the Antarctic ice sheet. The massive doors, untouched for millions of years, slid open with unsettling ease when Maria placed her hand on a crystalline panel. "It recognized your genetic pattern," Vexlar observed, appendages twitching with excitement. The chamber beyond was vast, illuminated by panels that activated as they entered. At its center stood a holographic projector that hummed to life, displaying a three-dimensional map of the galaxy with certain stars highlighted in pulsing red. "That's the Concord homeworlds," whispered Kiraran. "How could ancient Earth have these star charts?" Before anyone could respond, the projector shifted to display a humanoid figure, taller and more slender than modern humans, but recognizably similar. Guardians of the future, it spoke in a language that somehow all present could understand. "If you are receiving this message, the time of return is near. You were created for this moment." The beam's eyes seemed to look directly at the humans present. "You are not an accident. You are our answer to the darkness that comes from beyond." The emergency transmission interrupted Ambassador Kiraran during a diplomatic dinner at the United Nations. The holographic form of High Counselor Jev materialized above her wrist communicator, scales pulsing with urgent distress patterns. "Kiraran, the hegemony is under attack." Jev's voice trembled. "Pax 9 has fallen. Marilius and Tal Shera are dark, unknown vessels emerging from. The transmission dissolved into static. Maria noticed the ambassador's sudden rigidity. What's wrong? Before Kiran could answer, every human communication device in the room activated simultaneously. Emergency broadcasts, air raid sirens, military alerts, all systems triggered at once. Multiple unknown objects entering solar system, announced a calm automated voice. This is not a drill. All personnel to defense stations. The room erupted into controlled chaos as military officials rushed out. Secretary General Okafor approached Kiran, his face grim. Is this connected to your transmission? Kiran's translator struggled to find the right words. I fear it may be the darkness the ancient message warned about. Within hours, the Joint Human Concord Command Center beneath Geneva was fully operational. Holographic displays showed a terrifying reality. Across the galaxy, Concord worlds were going silent. Earth's long-range sensors detected objects decelerating at the solar system's edge. Dr. Vexlar burst into the command center, his exoskeleton clicking rapidly in distress. The approaching ships match patterns found in the Antarctic bunker's archives, he announced. They're called the Void Collective, a silicon-based hive intelligence that hibernates in dark space between galactic rotations. Hibernates for how long? Asked General Winters, Earth's military representative. Approximately 50 million years, Vexler replied. They emerge when galactic conditions favor their biology, harvest all available resources, then return to hibernation. The main screen displayed footage from a Concord colony world now under attack. Strange devices were being deployed on the planet's surface. Within hours, radiation levels spiked, atmospheric composition altered, and temperatures fluctuated wildly. They're turning Pax-9 into a Class 14 environment, whispered Kiran. Impossible for Concord species to survive, but perfect for the Void Collective, finished Maria. And for humans. A priority message flashed on Kiran's communicator. The ambassador read it, her skin paling to a sickly hue. The Concord High Council has issued new directives, she said stiffly. I am ordered to destroy all research regarding Earth and terminate contact immediately. Why? Demanded Okafor. Some council members believe humans may be connected to the Void Collective. They fear you were engineered as advance agents for this invasion. The room fell silent. General Winter's hand moved subtly toward her sidearm. That's absurd, said Maria. If we were working with these invaders, why would they be approaching our system now? We'd already be compromised. Kiran's inner eyelids flickered, a sign of deep conflict. Her next words came slowly. The directive also orders me to deploy planetary sterilization protocols if withdrawal is not possible. The human officials tensed. Weapons were drawn. Soldiers moved to secure the alien delegation. Stand down, ordered Okafor sharply. Ambassador Kiran hasn't finished speaking. Kiran straightened to her full height. I am choosing to defy these orders. The evidence clearly shows humans were created to fight the Void Collective, not assist them. If my people cannot see that, they are blinded by terror. She removed her ceremonial sash, symbol of her diplomatic authority, and placed it on the table. I no longer speak for the Concord. I speak only for myself when I say, Earth is our last hope. The ancient engineers who created humanity did so because they knew this day would come. Dr. Vexlar stepped forward. The bunker archives contain weapon schematics, designed specifically for human use against the collective. Maria looked at the screens showing the approaching fleet, then at General Winters. How quickly can we mobilize a global defense force? 12 hours, Winters replied. But without knowing what we're facing. The ancient precursors knew, said Vexlar, activating a data crystal from the bunker. And they left you instructions. The United Nations Emergency Assembly took less than 2 hours to reach a unanimous decision. A speed unprecedented in human political history. Earth would fight. We don't have the technological capability to match either the Concord or the Void Collective, General Winters explained to the assembled delegates. But we have something neither of them possesses: the ability to function in Class 14 environments. Screens displayed footage from PAX-9, where the once habitable Concord world now resembled a hellscape. Void Collective forces moved freely through toxic fog and radiation storms that had killed the planet's inhabitants within hours. "Those conditions look like a Tuesday in Australia," remarked the Australian Prime Minister, drawing nervous laughter. In orbit, the remnants of the Concord exploration fleet prepared to make their last stand alongside Earth's modest space forces. The technological disparity was staggering. Human spacecraft were centuries behind Concord vessels, which were themselves outmatched by the Void Collective's biomechanical ships. Commander Jackson, a veteran of Earth's Special Forces, studied the tactical displays inside the Antarctic Bunker Command Center. The ancient facility had been fully activated, revealing weapons systems beyond humanity's current technological understanding. "These insertion pods," he said, pointing to schematics hovering above the crystalline table, "they're designed for atmospheric entry without detection." Dr. Vexlar, now serving as scientific liaison, examined the designs. They appear calibrated for insertion into Class 14 environments, specifically into worlds the Collective has already transformed. Maria looked up from her station. "You're suggesting we counter-invade after they've already taken a planet?" "Precisely," Jackson nodded. "They're converting worlds to environments lethal to Concord species, but perfect for their own biology. And inadvertently, perfect for humans," finished Kieran. "An environment engineered to be exactly like Earth." The plan came together in hours. While the Concord fleet would engage the Collective in space, human strike teams would deploy to PAX-9, the nearest conquered world, to sabotage the terraforming devices maintaining the Deathworld conditions. 12 hours later, Commander Jackson led 50 volunteers through final preparations. Each wore combat gear derived from the ancient schematics, lightweight but offering protection beyond anything in Earth's arsenal. "This is a one-way insertion," he reminded his team. "The Concord can't extract us from the surface conditions. We complete the mission, or we don't come back." Maria, who had insisted on joining as the scientific specialist, checked her equipment one final time. "The Collective won't expect resistance from the surface. They believe they've created an environment where nothing can survive." The insertion was violent. Stealth pods punched through PAX-9's turbulent atmosphere, deliberately riding radiation storms to mask their approach. From orbit, they appeared as nothing more than debris. When the pods cracked open on the planet's surface, the humans emerged into conditions that would kill any Concord species in seconds: air thick with radioactive particles, acid rain sizzling against barren ground, temperature fluctuations capable of shattering ceramic. To the humans, it was uncomfortable, but survivable. "Move out," Jackson ordered through his tactical communicator. 90 minutes to target. They advanced through the ruined cityscape of what had been PAX-9's capital. Massive terraforming pylons pulsed with energy, maintaining the hellish conditions. Between them moved the silicon-based entities of the Void Collective, tall, crystalline structures floating above the ground on fields of energy. "They don't even have guard patrols," Maria observed. "They're so confident in their environmental defense, they don't expect attackers." The first engagement came unexpectedly. A human scout rounded a corner and encountered 3 collective entities. Before they could react, he had opened fire with weapons calibrated to the Collective's crystalline biology. The entities shattered like glass. Across the tactical network, Jackson heard something he hadn't expected in the middle of this apocalyptic scenario. His soldiers were laughing. "They die so easily," reported the scout. "They've evolved for this environment, but not for combat within it." For the first time since the invasion began, hope flickered to life. The Void Collective had engineered the perfect killing grounds for their enemies, never imagining they were creating the perfect battlefield for humanity. As Jackson's team approached the central terraforming node, He sent a brief message to the Concorde fleet. Humanity is in position. Watch what happens next. 3 weeks after Jackson's mission to Pax-9, the tactical landscape of the galactic conflict had transformed. Footage of humans moving unprotected through Class 14 environments, dismantling Void Collective forces with brutal efficiency, spread throughout Concorde communication channels. Hope replaced terror. On Earth, manufacturing facilities worked around the clock, adapting the ancient schematics into weapons humanity could wield. The Concorde provided advanced materials. Humans provided the biological capacity to assemble them in conditions no Concorde species could tolerate. In the orbital research station, Dr. Vexlar and Maria made a breakthrough that would change the course of the war. "It's not what we thought," Maria said, pointing to the holographic model floating between them. "The Void Collective isn't creating Deathworlds. They're restoring planets to their natural state." Vexlar's appendages twitched in confusion. "Explain." "Space itself is inherently hostile to life as the Concorde defines it," Maria continued. "The cosmic balance favors radiation, extreme temperatures, toxic compounds. What if habitable worlds aren't the galaxy's default state?" Understanding dawned in Vexlar's compound eyes. "You're suggesting the precursors engineered thousands of worlds to support life like ours, dampening their natural hostility." Maria nodded. "And Earth was their control case, a world they allowed to remain mostly untamed, but seeded with a species they engineered to withstand those conditions." "A backup plan," whispered Vexlar, "in case the Void Collective ever returned to restore the galaxy to its naturally hostile state." The theory was confirmed when the ancient bunker yielded one final secret, a dimensional sensor showing hundreds of dormant wormholes scattered throughout the galaxy, the Collective's entry points, waiting to activate when conditions favored their biology. Based on this intelligence, a desperate plan formed. Ambassador Kiraran, reinstated after the Concorde High Council acknowledged their error, addressed the Joint Human Concorde Command. "The intelligence recovered from Pax-9 reveals the Collective's primary dimension gate," she explained. "A master portal that controls all others, located in what humans call the Boots Void." Commander Jackson, now leading the multinational Earth Defense Force, studied the tactical display. "If we can close that gate, we end the invasion," finished Kiraran. "But we must act quickly. Every world they convert strengthens their hold on this galaxy." The mission would require technology adapted from the Antarctic bunker, a dimensional dampening device that could seal the breach between realities. It needed to be placed at the center of the Collective's primary gate. "The radiation at the gate's core exceeds even Earth levels by a factor of 20, warned Vexlar. "No protection we can devise will last more than minutes." Jackson's expression remained impassive. "Minutes are all we need." The assault force departed 2 days later. A joint fleet of Concorde and human vessels surrounding the container ship carrying the dimensional device. Jackson commanded the insertion team from the bridge of the HMS Indomitable, Earth's newest warship built with Concorde assistance. Ambassador Kiraran, against all protocol, insisted on joining the mission. "My people retreated when we should have stood firm," she said when questioned. "I will not make that mistake again." The battle at the Dimension Gate was chaos incarnate. The Void Collective defended their critical infrastructure with forces that darkened space itself. Concorde ships provided covering fire while human strike teams, wearing the most advanced protection available, fought through impossible conditions to reach the gate's core. Inside the primary structure, Jackson and Kiraran led the final push with the device. Reality itself seemed to warp around them, space buckling under the strain of the dimensional breach. 2 minutes until core access, reported a technician, her voice steady despite the blood seeping from her nose. The first sign of radiation poisoning. They reached the pulsing heart of the gate with seconds to spare on their protection countdown. The dampening device, designed to interface with the gate's alien technology, required manual activation at precise coordinates. Jackson looked at the readouts, then at Kiraran. "The synchronization will take 90 seconds. Our protection fails in 60. Kiraran, already showing signs of exposure through her environmental suit, nodded in understanding. Then we'd better work quickly. As they initiated the sequence, alarms blared warning of complete protection failure. Jackson made a decision. He removed his control gauntlet and physically connected the final circuits, an action that exposed him directly to the gate's full radiation. "Jackson," Kiraran shouted through her communicator. "What are you doing?" Through gritted teeth, as his exposed skin began to blister, he replied, "Proving that humans don't just survive Deathworlds. We defeat them." The device activated with a pulse that rippled through subspace. The dimensional breach began to collapse, severing the collective's connection to their home reality. The last thing Kiraran saw before the emergency extraction activated was Jackson's smile, triumphant despite the cost. 6 months after the collapse of the Dimension Gate, representatives from 27 species gathered in the newly constructed Harmony Dome in Geneva. The transparent ceiling revealed Earth's sky, blue and clouded, beautiful and deadly, a reminder of the world that had saved them all. Maria Chen, recently appointed as Earth's first interstellar relations director, stood at the podium before the assembled delegates. Behind her, a memorial wall displayed the names of those lost in what historians now call the Void War. Commander Jackson's name, inscribed in gold, held the central position. "We gather today not to celebrate victory," Maria began, "but to honor sacrifice and forge a path forward. The Void Collective is gone, but the galaxy they left behind is forever changed." On screens throughout the chamber, footage showed joint human Concord teams working on planets the Collective had transformed. Humans in light protective gear worked alongside Concord species in full environmental suits, restoring worlds to habitability, or at least habitability as the Concord defined it. "We face a choice," Maria continued. "We can attempt to restore all worlds to pre-war conditions, or we can acknowledge a truth the ancient precursors understood. Diversity is survival." Ambassador Kiraran, her scales now permanently discolored from radiation exposure at the gate, rose to join Maria at the podium. The gesture, unprecedented in Concord diplomatic history, signified her support for what would come next. "The Concord High Council proposes a new classification system," Kiraran announced. "No longer will we rank worlds by danger level, but by adaptation requirement. Earth is not a death world, but the template for a new category of resilient biospheres." The proposal was revolutionary. Rather than terraform all worlds to Concord standards, some planets would be maintained as Earth-like environments. Human colonies would be established there, serving as outposts of biological resilience, should threats like the Collective ever return. "But we offer something more," Maria added. "Through controlled genetic modification techniques recovered from the Antarctic bunker, we can gradually help Concord species adapt to more extreme conditions, and in turn, humans can adapt to more standard environments." In medical facilities throughout Earth, the first generation of modified Concord volunteers were already showing remarkable progress. Dr. Vexlar, who had volunteered for the first trials, now required only minimal protection on Earth's surface, a transformation previously thought impossible. "The precursors believed in walls," Maria said. "They created humanity as a separate guardian species, isolated on our Deathworld fortress. But we believe in bridges." The agreement signed that day would be known as the Adaptability Accord. Earth would share its biological resilience with the galaxy, while gaining access to technologies beyond human development. Future generations would be stronger, more adaptable, yet still diverse. 1 year later, Dr. Vexlar stood unprotected on a mountain overlook in what humans called Colorado. Beside him, Maria watched the sunset paint the sky in colors that, to Vexlar's compound eyes, revealed spectra no human could perceive. "It still hurts to breathe your air," Vexlar admitted, his adapted respiratory system whistling slightly. "But the pain reminds me of what we're achieving." Below them, the valley contained both the standard Concord habitat bubble and a small human settlement, with a shared cultural center between them. Children from both species played together in a specially designed interaction zone. The Concord children are spending more time outside their protection each week, Maria observed, and our children are learning to be gentler, more patient. Evolution in real time. Vexlar agreed. My analysis suggests that within 7 generations, our species may be able to share environments with minimal technological intervention. Maria smiled. The ultimate bridge. In orbit, the construction of the largest interstellar vessel ever built continued day and night. The ship, named Resilience, would carry representatives from all aligned species on the first mission beyond Concord space. Explorers and diplomats venturing into the unknown together. Its motto, inscribed in every written language of the Alliance, had been proposed by Ambassador Curran. The stars are not our enemy. The void is not our enemy. Fear is our only enemy. Earth had been reclassified in the Galactic database, no longer listed as Class 14 Deathworld. It now bore a simple description: humanity's cradle, the world that saved us all.